It's another little tutorial overview thing, but with some nice little guest model. So I was chatting with Jesse from Red Clay Collectables, and he was curious about Morphin. We were chatting away, and he asked some questions, and I said, "Well, do you have something that you would like to see rigged in Morphin?" So this is what I've got here. So you can see, I've got basic IK on the legs. I've got some spring constraints on the arms and the ears. Yeah, it's all kind of there and ready to go, and wasn't that hard to set up. So the main thing was just the processing inside Nomad, which in itself also wasn't that bad. Just for context, and just because he was so generous to share this with me, I thought I'd plug his site. So if you look up Red Clay Collectables, you can find this kind of stuff. It's rather cheeky, saucy stuff. It's pretty cool. So anyway, let's have a look at the Nomad and Morphin side of this. So I'm going to go back to Nomad for a sec, and I'll just clear this out. Okay, and let's jump over to Nomad. So this will take a little while because the model is 500 meg, so it's a pretty hefty model. Yeah, it actually crashed just fine. So I'm going to go open the projects. There it is. So it's pretty nice, and that is, if I turn on the wireframe, that's 26.2 million polygons. So it's pretty heavy. So I'll just show you what I did to clean this up. So it's always the same process. It seems to work every time. So it's basically duplicate all the shapes, join them into one, decimate until it gets down to something reasonable. In this one, I ran a Boolean operation just to sort of join the mesh a bit, then generate UVs, transfer color from the other, from the high res, bake textures, export to Morphin. So let's go through all that. So I'm going to choose everything. So a faster way to choose everything is to use the select brush. So I'm going to go to select. I'm just going to marquee select everything. Cool. And then I'm going to go up to the menu for the outliner and go clone. This will take a bit of time. I ran out of memory. I actually did this on my desktop copy of Nomad, so I might just, for argument's sake, do it over there. So I'll show you what I did. So here is the scene. I'm going to actually delete this. So this, just so you can see what's going on, if I make this full screen, this is the decimated ones. So you can see the poly count is kind of reasonable, but it's got all the detail. In fact, if I make a point of turning off the textures, you can see it's all in the textures. Everything else has been removed. So let's do the process again over here, because why not? So I'm going to grab this body, just see if I can pull this back a little bit. So I've got a bit of room for my head. There we are, better. Okay, so I'm going to delete this 25K body. I'm going to delete. New. Is anyone selected? Yeah, delete. Strange. Okay, and then I'm going to turn off solo so we see the high res one again, and turn off the wireframe. And turn on the paint. Okay, so here is the high res. I'm going to do what I tried before. We're going to choose everything. Select, grab it all. I go clone, and then I go join straight away. And this will. So the fact that it struggles on my Mac Pro here kind of implies how heavy this is. So this is my now single mesh, which is 26.2 million polygons. I'm going to rename this to be body low, because this will be my low res body. I'm just going to go into solo mode on this one. So I'm only looking at this one, and everything else is hidden. Okay, so I'm going to go to the decimate menu. So it's under topology, MISC, and then decimate up here. And see if I can shortcut it. Why not? So we can keep a track of the polygon count here. So this is 26.2 at the moment. So if I go, let's go all the way. Let's see if we can just reduce it immediately down to 10%. So we decimate. This may take a while. I might even pause it. Nearly there. That took about 20 seconds. So that was actually pretty good. So now we're down to 2.62. So I'm going to jump this back up to decimating by 50% because this tends to go quite quickly from this stage. So I can even have a look at the wireframe, decimate. So down to 1.3, 600,000, 30,000, sorry, 300,000, 164, 82. This is now getting to pretty good decimation. I tend to do it visually. So I'll go into smooth shading, make sure I'm not looking at the wireframe, and just keep decimating until I notice that I've gone too far, and then I undo a step. So that still looks pretty good. So I'm just looking at the geometry, not the shading. Just one more. That looks pretty good. How's that? So that is 10,000. So that's a pretty good production, and we seem to have most of the detail on the fingers. I'll undo by one. There we go. That feels pretty good. 20,000 feels quite reasonable. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm just going to boolean this together so it's more or less a single mesh. So for that, go over to the outliner, go to boolean and boolean. So that's now more or less a single mesh. Now I can do UVs. So I'm going to get out of this, get out of that. Go away menus. Okay, so from here, back to the topology, misc and unwrap. Okay, so there's a crazy unwrap, but that's fine. And then we can bake from the original. So because everything is visible, but it's just because I'm in solo mode, that means that when I go over to the baking thing, you can see that it's going to bake from the 20 high-res objects it's going to find. So if we go to the options here, I did mess with the cage a bit, so I made sure that the cage was just fat enough to grab everything, but not crazy fat. The default cage size is out here, which is huge. So I pulled it back to something a bit more sane. So like that. And I'm baking normal, metalness, roughness, color. That's all I really need into a 1K map. So let's go from high res. And there we go. So now we have all this lovely detail. That's all coming from the normal map and the colors. So now that that's done, I can export this. So make sure that's selected. Go to the export menu, and I'm going to export to GLTF, only the selected. Make sure face group is turned off because Morphin doesn't like that. And I'm exporting vertex colors is turned off, and I've got normals on and textures on, and go export, and I save that. So now I can jump back over to my iPad. So sorry, Nomad on iPad. It's a perfect excuse to get a more powerful iPad now. Okay, so going to go import and bring in that rabbit mesh. So this is what it looks like. So this purpley cast is coming from the environment map. So I can boost that up a little bit more. Maybe I'll rotate it around. Come on, use my finger there. Oh, make sure to turn on gestures. Always forget to do that. There we are. So now you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. Okay, so and then it's the same as before, really. So now that that's actually quite a reasonable mesh, I've just got to put in some bones. So I'm going to go to Auto Front View, make sure I'm aligned, tap it again, go and make a rig. So there's a single bone. I'll put this where the hips should go roughly. Go up the chest. Make sure this one is sort of sitting where the neck should go. Another one to the base of the head. Yeah, it's fine. We'll do some adjusting after the fact. Make this one go tall to cover the rest of the head. So that's the spine done. Let's do the arms. So the arms will come out from about here. I'm going to make a child bone. Put that roughly where sort of the collarbone would go. And rotate that to sit about there. Child of that. Rotate down. Scale it out to where the elbow is. Child of that. That goes to where the wrist is. A little bit bigger. And a child of that. And scale that down and make that, rotate that to cover the hand. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go to the legs. Make sure we're facing forward again. So make a child of the hips and move that to where the start of that thigh bone should go. Rotate it down, scale it up. Cool. Child of no, I can't see the leg. Full. Okay, child of that one, rotate it to point to the ankle. Let's go to a side view now. Make sure that's sort of roughly where that should be. Kind of there. Child of that one, rotate it forward to the ball of the foot. Roughly that. And then a child of that, and we will rotate that forward. Now I'm using another mode to do refinement because if you've watched any of the other videos where I do the skeleton work, trying to adjust the placement of the knee by kind of rotating it from up here, it's quite fiddly because you got to do this sort of like adjustment, then you have to counter adjust everything else. A mode that the Morphin developer added, which is quite useful, is if I go to the shape options and change it to node mode. So now you get this view, and this is kind of like you can adjust the pivots and you just edit them directly, which is quite useful. So if I now go to the side view, I can see that this knee has to be adjusted, so I can tap it once and then I can just move it. What else needs to be adjusted? Go to the front view again, maybe about there, this one. So this is quite freeform, which is really good. So I can go to the top view, the bottom view actually. Let's go this way, bottom view, and adjust where that toe is pointing. Is that right? Yeah, that other toe has gone crazy. So that should be there, and that should be there. So like a lot of things in Nomad, it's can be a little bit buggy, but I found this is way faster way to work than what I was doing before. So I quite like this. So just the knee. Oops, so the knee's drifted off. Put it there. That hip is actually in the wrong position. That should be probably more centered like that. Cool. The back is actually way out. So make sure I know which one I'm adjusting. That should be probably about there. That's the part of the spine. Oftentimes with this stuff, and this is again the same in all 3D packages, it's just this bit of a dance you do when you're juggling sort of orthographic views and trying to see through the shape to where you need to place bones and stuff. That one has to come back a bit. I'm also doing my usual thing of remembering that this is Morphin. It's meant to be fun and loose. I'm trying not to be too precious about placement. It's not letting me choose that end bone. There it is. Come on. There we go. Okay, so that's looking not too bad from all angles. The head placement and the neck. No, the neck is a bit too far back. How are we doing for time? 13 minutes, not too bad. That should be there. And that's that. Okay, so now that that's more or less how I would like that to be, get back into shape mode and Octa. And this is where I have a couple of issues with it, but it kind of works. So by doing that, I've really broken the local orientation of these joints. So what you're meant to do is go reorient leaf bones and relink the bones, and it should place them so that they kind of sit where they're meant to sit. So sometimes the very end bones drift a bit, but that's fine because they're sitting in the right position. All I need is just to do the final rotation fix, and they're all good. So that one's good. This toe is drifted. That's fine. Let's put it kind of there. All right, last few bones, because I should have done this before. I will go to the front and I'll put in the ear bones. So put one there, turn it, scale it. And this one I'm going to do, I'm going to use the tool just to split this into multiple bones. So that should go probably about there, maybe drift it forward a bit. A very old reference is there was a comedy show in the UK called The Fast Show, and they did a parody of going to visit a stop motion studio, and the documentary maker was very excited to see it being done. And then the sketch went on for far too long of just watching the stop motion guy just going, I'll just tweak this just a bit, and I'll tweak that just a bit. I always feel when I'm doing this and I'm tweaking these bone positions and I'm being recorded that the audience is feeling like that. Like, this is getting very boring. Anyway, that is one side done. So now we can do a quick mirror. So I'm going to choose everything needs to be mirrored. So that from this collarbone across. So we go clone hierarchy across X, and that's obviously it's fine. Again, if I was being very careful, I would name these things, but clone hierarchy across X, sure. Okay. So again, sometimes get these weird drifts, but I have learned to just go, it's fine. So there we are. So now I can correct these guys by pulling it up to the toe. I mean, these end of joint things often don't matter too much anyway. Actually, that's not true. That one does matter. So there's all these little fit and finish things that I mean, yeah, they could be better, but it works fine for what I need it to do. So I'm going to go clone this. Yep. Okay. All right, that is the entire rig. So I'm going to now bind it. So remember the lesson. I mean, maybe the bug's been fixed, but I've been testing this a few times. Before, I would normally save it at this point, or I used to save it at this point. But what would happen is because this relies on GLB and GLTF, that's the core file format beneath Morphin. GLTF seems to have an optimization that says, well, if you've saved a skeleton with a mesh, but they've not been bound together, I'm going to optimize the scene for you, and I'm going to delete the skeleton, which is, hugely frustrating when you go to load it back in again. That's almost not much the Morphin developers can do about that. That's a limitation of GLB. So that's why I always make a point of binding first. So you choose the body mesh, go to bind, and auto weight. This takes about 5-10 seconds because it's a fairly heavy mesh. But I'm always surprised that even though it takes a little bit of time for the weighting to happen, once it's weighted, it goes back to real time again. I was mentioning this in the Discord that I'm used to animation tools being relatively slow. Like if it can perform at say 30 frames a second, I think, wow, this is actually pretty good. Morphin seems to be able to animate things at like 120 frames a second. Like if you like using it here, you obviously can't see it on the recording, but it feels like buttery smooth. Don't know what magic is going on there, but it feels really nice. Anyway, that's now rigged, so I can just do a quick wiggle, and the leg is good. Wiggle the arm is good. And I'll wiggle the ear, and the ear is good. Okay, so this is where I'll save it. So I go save as, I go bunny tutorial. Okay, and now is where we do the fun stuff. So I'm going to go and choose the foot bone. So it's a little bit confusing. This follows what Blender does. That when you set up IK, you set up IK from the root of the bone you want the IK to be. Whereas when you're setting up pole vectors, you go from the tip of the bone that you want it to be. It's strange. That's a Blender thing as far as I know. So with this bone selected, constraint menu, I'll pin this. Going to go. So I'm in IK. This is the effector. I'll auto create the pole and link it and apply. That's that leg. Go to the other leg. Choose it. Apply. First thing to do is to pull the pole vectors out so that the knee doesn't try to fold in on itself. I'll scale these down so that they don't get so visually annoying. And I will immediately save this bind pose. So if I go bind, so I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I hit the restore to bind pose button now, so see how I've moved and I've scaled these here. If I hit bind pose, they go back to where they were, which is annoying. But if I pull them out again and scale them again, and this time, come on, scale handle. There we are. This time I go to the bind menu and just hit bind. That's now saved it as a bind pose. So now when I hit the pose button, this is what it resets to. So if I kind of move these things somewhere else, if I repose it like this, and I want to get back to its sort of default pose, when I hit the pose button, it goes back to this state, which is quite nice. So that's the legs. The legs now have IK, so I can now grab the hips and I can do that, which is pretty cool. Back to the bind pose, and then I set up springs for the arms. So we went to constraints, spring constraints. This is the start of it. I set the stiffness to be kind of a little bit floppy. Let's go, yeah, 0.6 sounds good. And a little bit of gravity so that they will sag a little bit. So I'll point 2 is what I'm going for, and it's a length of 3 because there's three joints in there. So hit apply. I'll go to the other bone, and you saw it just sag, which is pretty cool. So choose that bone, apply. And I will do a similar spring constraint on the ears. So I'm going to say this is the ear. I'm going to make this more stiff and not as affected by gravity because we want them to stay perky. Apply. Other ear. Choose that. Apply. And we're done. So now I can go to here. I'm going to turn the opacity down so they don't sort of get in the way quite so much. I can do this, and you can see that's basically what I had before. So that is, again, like a fairly complicated, 26 million poly model brought into an animation ready state in 20 minutes. And a lot of that was me just talking and dealing with crashes and stuff. So yeah, hope that helps.